Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Yo, Devin Haney and Abdullah Mason. Let me check something here real quick. Let me just say this. Abdullah Mason is a great fighter. But I hear what the people are saying. I don't know if I agree with it, because I think sometimes these fighters, they're just in lose-lose situations, you know what I'm saying? Boxing fans, do you want a fighter to box and win? Do you want them to box and punch? You want them to brawl? You want them to just be a counterpuncher? Like, what do you want them to do? You know what I'm saying? People are out here giving Devin Haney a hard time, saying that, you know, he's scary, he's a coward, you know, that he can't fight. All he wants to do is clinch and hold. And then people look at a guy like Abdullah Mason and say he should be clinching, he should be holding, he should make the fight easy. He is stupid to go out there and brawl and fight the way he fought Notes. I'm like, so what's the middle ground here? Because both of them can't be horrible fighters. I just think it's crazy. Boxing fans really, that's why with me, I don't pay attention to what nobody says, man. You say something on the page, I just read them like whatever. But man, these cats out here, yeah, I 100% believe these guys commenting on videos, commenting and talking about boxing, they get out the shower to take a piss and get back into the shower. Like, they're really, really goddamn ridiculous, man. But what I do think is, if Abdullah Mason wanted to make a fight super easy, I think he could. But he seems to be the kind of guy who will want to mix it up. For Devin Haney, I think Devin Haney has always been able to mix it up if he wanted to. He's just always going to be a defense first, safety first type fighter. But Devin Haney definitely has what it takes if he wants to mix it up. So I think it's unfair for people to approach them the way they are with their opinions and their criticism. But at the same time, freedom of speech, you can do and say what you want, and people can disagree with you. But for Abdullah Mason, he's stepping into the spotlight, man. I think it's the perfect moment in boxing, especially with Turki Al-Sheikh. You know, when Turki's in the house every day is Thanksgiving. With Turki Al-Sheikh, who has his eyeball on him, and you're going to keep putting him in big-time fights. Now, I will say this. I do believe fans are starving for a new generation of fighters who mix skill with charisma, slickness with danger. And then the IQ with aggression. That is something that people have complained about Devin Haney not doing, even though they know he can do it. But I feel what makes Mason stand out is that he checks every one of those boxes. He's young, he's confident, explosive, intelligent, balanced, and he's stylish in the ring. You like watching Abdullah Mason fight. In many ways, he's the evolution of what many fans expected Devin Haney to become years ago. Fundamentally sound boxer who can dominate a fight, but isn't afraid to bite down, take a risk, or give the crowd a show. Now, Devin Haney has shown that in the past that he would do that if he felt it was safe to. But he wasn't necessarily going to try to go in there and take unnecessary risks. One thing for sure, Devin Haney at his core is a guy who wants to fight, who wants to knock you out. He wants to destroy you in the ring. He just showed at the lighter weights he wasn't able to do it. Now, a lot of people believe Devin Haney has the newfound power at 147, and now they want to really run around here and call him Debo Haney, and they expect him now to knock people out at 147 and dominate and go on to become undisputed. To that I say in the most respectful way, hey, yo, hold your horses, let's not take it to the stupid. I don't think we need to go that route yet and start saying all this shit, how Devin Haney's going to be here knocking people out. You got to understand, Devin Haney's known for being smart, not stupid, and do shit just because you want him to do it. He's disciplined, defensively responsible, defense-first fighter, and controlling a fight on his terms. Not the opponent's terms, not the referee's terms, not the crowd's terms, not the fans' terms. Devin Haney controls the fight on his terms. But Mason brings something different. Okay, Abdullah Mason, he gives the fans the illusion of danger while still possessing elite skill. And that's the magic formula for star power in boxing, and Abdullah Mason showed that this past weekend. Now, when you talk about skill set comparisons, because that's what people are doing now, On paper, both Haney and Mason are slick boxers with outstanding technical ability. They both have tight footwork, sharp IQ, and defensive layers most fighters never master. But stylistically, the differences start to show. With Devin Haney, he has a heavy jab. The power jab showed up this past weekend. And he's always had a very, very good, accurate, precise jab that can rip flesh off the face of his opponents. He's always been able to establish distance control, clinch and reset when pressured, minimize risk, win wide on the cards, break rhythm, not opponents, and rarely engages unnecessarily is where a lot of fans complain about Haney because they want to see him take more risk, engage more, even if they find it unnecessary just to entertain the crowd, which I think is a bit unfair, but I understand how some fans would sit there and feel that way. Now with Abdullah Mason, very slick. He's a southpaw, in case you didn't know. Sharp counters, willing to step into the fire. He loves angles, combinations, switching gears. Fights in the pocket longer than Haney. Haney may get in the pocket, but he ain't trying to stay there too long. Abdullah Mason will stay in the pocket and bang out. And look for openings, look for uppercuts, use angles. Abdullah Mason can do it all. But he plays chess. But he isn't scared of a little bit of chaos. And that's the one thing that I think is going to really help to make him a great, not a great fighter. He's going to be a fan favorite. But it's also going to put him in at risk for getting his ass knocked out too. And he has KO intentions. He's not just there to control the fight, control the tempo, and get a decision. No, he's there to knock you out. Mason is there to knock you out in every fight. So I think the way this boils down is where Haney prefers a safe, disciplined shutout. Mason wants a strategic firefight, a fight where skill and danger coexist. And it's blatantly obvious that that's what we have here when you talk about Haney. Just want to be safe, disciplined, get the shutout. And Mason, who's going to be strategic, but he has no issue with the firefight. Now, something I was reading through the comments, and I was seeing people saying, you know what, Mason and Haney, we like Mason's style more than Haney. Haney should have fought like this when he was younger. I mean, I hear you, but, not everybody going to have the same style of fighting. That's why I think it's cool to make a joke here and there, but I think it's unfair to criticize Devin Haney for his style. His style is his style. But you're entitled to your opinion. Who would you rather watch in the ring? I think it depends. They got some boxing purists out there who love to see Haney with his footwork, with his angles, with his clinching, with his timing, with his ability to disrupt his opponent, to frustrate his opponent. When you watch Devin Haney, you'll see a little bit of power that'll show up. You'll see timing show up. You'll see speed. You'll see footwork. You'll see defense. You'll see IQ. You'll see a guy watching the clock and knowing how to stall and run the clock down. Haney knows how to do everything. But fighters want more of the mash-up, crash-up. And that's why I think they're looking at Abdullah and they're saying he's tall and lanky like Haney. He's at 135. Haney was at 135. But damn, this guy Abdullah seems to be more exciting. And that's why I think they're connecting. And they're starting to look at, Abdullah being young in his career and when Haney was at that age. But people got to remember, Haney started boxing professionally at 17. Look, you cannot like Haney's dad. You cannot like Haney, but you got to give a man some respect. But the bottom line is, boxing fans love seeing a fighter who can box and they can brawl. When fans saw Haney early in his career, they thought he was going to be that guy. He was slick, he was fast, skilled, willing to step into exchanges like a prime Sugar Ray Leonard or Floyd Mayweather when he felt like it. And I remember watching him fight a fight when he first signed with DAZN and Eddie Hearn, and I was like, yo, this guy here is like Mayweather. See the shit he was doing was amazing. But he developed into something else, an elite but conservative technician, and it's paid dividends. He's still here going strong, undefeated. The only, blurb on his record is that shit with Ryan, but, that was overturned because Ryan, cheated him, which I still think is disgusting that Ryan was on peds to go fight Devin. But when it comes to Mason is giving fans something that Devin, he doesn't check all these boxes, but Devin gives some. But for Mason, he has the IQ that boxing fans respect. He has the movement they admire, the flash they enjoy, and the willingness to take risks that they crave. People don't just watch him to see whether he'll win, they watch him to see how he'll win. That danger factor is what creates superstars. And this past weekend when he faced Noakes, there was a whole lot of danger factor in that fight because you're watching and you're like, damn, if Noakes lands a good shot on him, he gonna knock him out cold. But then you're watching like, shit, Abdullah Mason lands one good shot and he's gonna knock Noakes out cold. That's why Mason is being demanded to return on another Riyadh season card, and Noakes is already penciled in to return, I think, in April back in England on a Riyadh season card. So that's what happens when you put out more entertainment value than safety value. In Turkey, Al-Sheikh, who's the big man in boxing right now, he wants drama. He doesn't want dominance. He doesn't necessarily want to see you play it safe. And those two gave him what he wanted. That's why they're going to be back. But at the same time, when you look at it, I think there's a point in everyone's career. Every fighter is going to face the same questions, Especially right now, do I stay entertaining or do I stay undefeated? And I think that's a crossroads that some fighters come across, man. Now, Mason, right now anyway, he's currently leaning into entertainment, giving fans slip counters, sharp combinations, clean knockdowns, and highlight reel moments. This is exactly what fans wanted from Devin Haney. They wanted a fighter who has the ability to dominate but still chooses to mix it up and prove something. But this comes at a price, all right? When a fighter is willing to stand in the pocket, take a step forward, and roll the dice, they also increase several things. Chance of getting your ass tranquilized, the likelihood of facing real adversity, the risk of a loss, which nobody wants a loss on their record now. Everybody wants to be perfect. And the chance of being knocked out and embarrassed on the biggest stage in boxing. But the reality is all of those things sound horrible, but that's the nature of the game. This is boxing. This isn't a tickling goddamn contest. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of a double-edged sword of being a fan favorite, If you can become a fan favorite, that's a powerful thing. And it's not easy to achieve, but it can be done. And if you do become a fan favorite, it builds your brand, grows your following, and earns you big fights. But it also creates an invisible pressure that fighters feel. Fans want action every time. So if you create that precedence of, hey, I'm going to be a guy that's in here looking for the mash-up, crash-up, and then one fight you come and you're up on your toes and you're boxing, fans will turn on your ass. They'll come in there and bring rocks into the goddamn arena and start throwing rocks at your ass in the ring. Fans want brawling. They want angles. They want counters. They want risk-taking. They want what Abdullah Mason brings, and that's what makes Abdullah Mason electric. If he changes his style, the same fans who praise him today will say, oh, he's scared now. He's a boxer runner. He wants to run. He's turning into Devin Haney, Shakir Stevenson. And that's just the reality because they don't give Shakir the credit he deserves either. He deserves a lot of credit, man. But that pressure can trap a fighter into fighting dangerously even when it's not smart. So I think the question is, for Abdullah Mason, what's better for him in his career? You know what I'm saying? Would a safe Haney style be better long term? Or should he come out here and maintain the style that he's showing, which is box, brawl, play it safe sometimes, give entertainment. What's best for Abdullah Mason? I think there's some pros and cons. If you play it safe like Devin Haney, he'll definitely have a longer career. Mason will probably have less brain trauma, lower chance of being knocked out, more decision wins, ability to dominate without taking any damage, and easier to control opponents. Abdullah Mason could do that. You could see with his size and IQ and technical ability, he can make every fight easy. But the thing is, there are downsides of fighting safe. Fans lose interest faster, fewer highlight moments, smaller star power, less viral content, reputation of being boring, and harder to build an emotional connection with fans because they're just like, they don't want to really watch you fight. It's more like, is he going to lose? But they're not appreciating your talent. And Devin Haney experiences a lot of that. There's a lot of hate for Devin Haney. And I don't think it's warranted as far as his boxing style, I think a lot of that derives from his attitude and mouth and the shit that he says and the way his dad carries on out here. Sometimes people can't separate the entertainment from who the real person is. You know what I'm saying? They tend to think that that's how that person is, when really boxing is entertainment, and you got to be able to sell yourself and self-promote. And I think that's what it is with Bill Haney and Devin. But again, I really don't give a shit. It doesn't affect me. But I just think in modern boxing, star power is built through moments, not just wins. And Abdullah Mason gave us some great moments this past weekend. So that being said, since Abdullah Mason came out, I think that was his breaking out party, man, to come out there and fight Noakes and perform the way he did. Should Mason keep taking risks? Or should he start playing it safe? I think Mason should stay true to who he is, but just be a little bit smarter, okay? He doesn't need to become Haney, but he also doesn't need to take unnecessary punishment. What makes Mason special is that he finds the balance between intelligent boxing, calculated risk, flashy moments, controlled aggression. He should keep mixing boxing and brawling, but with maturity. Pick his exchanges wisely, avoid the ego battles, which he got caught up in this weekend. Use his angles more, stand still less, and only take unnecessary risks when a fighter is hurt. And don't chase knockouts, set them up, set traps, walk them into the big shots. Don't just try to force the big shots on him. This way he keeps his fan-friendly style without committing career suicide, which can happen. I can't help but think of like Fernando Vargas. I think his name was Francisco Pachito Bajado, David Reed. You guys may know these names, you may not. Those are guys who could have boxed and just, played it safe, but they got into the fan-friendly shit, the entertainment shit, the mash-up, crash-up stuff, brawling, and their careers were cut short, especially David Reed. He was an amazing Olympic gold medalist, but he got into boxing. He just was thrown in some vicious fights, got into some exchanges he didn't need to, and his career was cut short. So you don't want to see that happening to Abdullah Mason, and then he ends up committing what a lot of us would consider, career suicide. Where is this damn thing? Okay. But what Mason must do to avoid a future loss, I think it boils down to like longevity, you know what I'm saying? If you want to have longevity in the sport of boxing, I can't help but think about Floyd Mayweather. He talks about, the least damage, the longer you last. So you got to take, you got to be careful how much damage that he's taking for Abdullah Mason. He's really young, really early in his career. But you can't get pulled into firefights by lesser opponents. If you got somebody in the ring who doesn't belong with you, you need to make them look that way and outclass him, embarrass him, outbox him, and eventually force the referee to stop the fight or his corner to stop the fight. Make sure your punches and combinations rip pieces of flesh off their face. Don't give them an opportunity to have these exchanges with you to where you're ripping pieces of flesh off their face, but now they have the opportunity to rip flesh off of your face as well. Mason did that this weekend. He can't afford to do that going forward. There are going to be times where you're in a fight with somebody who's a great fighter, and they're going to touch you up. You can't just walk through everybody. But at the same time, if you have someone in there who shouldn't be touching you up, don't give them the opportunity to touch you up and bing you and rip pounds of flesh off your face. But for longevity, I think Mason needs to avoid the firefights. Don't let fans pressure you into being reckless. Exchanging just to prove a point, relying too much on your athleticism and trying to score knockdowns that aren't there. Many talented, flashy fighters got clipped early in their careers because they believed they were untouchable. Mason needs confidence. He doesn't need arrogance. Mason is a really solid fighter, man, and I want to see him go far in the sport. And, there is a path to superstardom. You know what I'm saying? You can take a look at, Sugar Ray Leonard. You look at Duran. You look at, Muhammad Ali. You look at, what's his name? Mayweather, Broner, even Paulie Malignaggi. You got De La Hoya. Who right now is really entertaining? like Deontay Wilder, Pitbull Cruz. The bottom line is, if you can stay entertaining, Keith Thurman, there's other guys from back in the day who were really, really entertaining inside and outside the ring. And as a result, that helped with their superstardom. But a good example of somebody who was really, really entertaining and became a superstar, although he kind of fell off, but he understood how to stay entertaining, and that was Adrian Broner. But, what happened to him happened. Hopefully he can get himself back together. But if you want to be a superstar in boxing, you got to be entertaining. Inside the ring, outside the ring too. Fans need to connect with you. You got to be real to yourself. Stick to what makes you great. Being slick, being explosive inside the ring. You got to tighten up your defense. It's one thing, if you want the path to superstardom, people love to see someone who can't get hit, but they want to make sure you're taking risks and hitting people. That's why Floyd Mayweather, I don't care what you say, Floyd will whip your ass and you couldn't touch him. So people can say what they want about Floyd. Floyd he was entertaining, slick, explosive. Defense was on point. He had layers to his boxing IQ. This is what Mason's going to need, layers to his boxing IQ. Mason's going to have to show that he can mature emotionally. Floyd was able to mature emotionally through his career. And then you just got to understand when to take risks and when to avoid them. And that was Floyd as well. He knew when to take risks, when to avoid them. But if he can do that, I think Abdullah Mason, he becomes a complete fighter, man. He will be everything that you want a fighter to be. Slick, flashy, smart, dangerous, responsible. And that combination is very rare. You get some guys with some of these things, but not everything, man. So at the end of the day, Abdullah Mason is absolutely the fighter fans wanted Devin Haney to become. But Devin Haney became something great still, but not what fans wanted. But it's what Devin Haney wanted, and at the end of the day, no one's gonna like you like you love yourself. So F what a lot of these fans think, because if these guys get hurt and they sipping soup through a straw and shit, ain't nobody gonna be there to help them, man. So forget the fans. It's like me. I do this YouTube channel. I love to hear what people have to say, but the negative bozos, my attitude is like, yo, fuck you, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. You want me to say this or say that? Fuck out of here. Just like you wanting these fighters, do this, do that. You think they care about what you're saying? Half of y'all still at home with your mother and father living in the basement, writing your name under fucking orange juice. Walking around in your boxer shorts. You know what I mean? Mom, Dad, make me a burger. You ain't make that grilled cheese with that tomato soup? Mom, Dad, hey, man. Get your ass out there and get a job and get productive, man. Quit worrying about what everybody doing. But for Abdullah Mason, he's on his way. He's got the skills that Haney has, and he's got the excitement that the fans crave. He's got it, man. He fights to win, but he wants to entertain. He fights with skill, but also danger. He fights with IQ, but he's got the swag. But with that style comes risk, real risk. So I think the key to his future, he got his dad, his brothers, he got the right people around him, man. Abdullah Mason has got it, man. And he's respected by everyone. When you hear him talk about him, his father, his brothers, it's a lot of respect, man. But the key to his future is maintaining that balance and keeping that family unit close. Don't worry about anybody on the outside, man. You can be polite and cordial with everyone, but my attitude is fuck them. Focus on your family, focus on what's got you to this point, and I think he'll maintain the right balance. Don't become too safe inside the ring. Don't become too reckless. But find that sweet spot in the middle where legends are made. You know what I'm saying? And I think if Mason plays it smart, stays disciplined, and continues to blend boxing with calculated aggression, he won't just be a fan favorite. I think Mason will be a superstar. I think he's on his way to being a superstar. That's just my opinion. But he's got to understand that sweet spot between playing it safe and then entertaining him and taking risks. You got to find that sweet middle ground. And I think if he can find that, I think Mason is on his way. And Devin Haney is a great fighter, man. But the bottom line is people want to see him not be so risk averse, go towards the fire more. But Devin Haney has figured out what works for him, and he does it well. And at the end of the day, I'm going to say it again, nobody going to love you like you love yourself. So if Devin Haney wants to fight that way, it's working for him. He should stick to his script. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. I'm about to go to IKEA with my sons and go eat some Chinese food. Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.